Hi, I'm Carly,
And I'm Michelle.
and we are your Northwest Arkansas Regional Mentoring Specialist. Welcome to Inspiration After the Bell, the podcast where we
Share stories
strategies.
and sparks of inspiration to help educators like you make a difference in the classroom every day. Whether you're a first-year teacher or a seasoned educator, we hope you get a dose of inspiration to carry with you after the bell and beyond.
Thanks for joining us today. We are excited to introduce another incredible member of our team here at Northwest Arkansas Educational Co-op.
That's right. We're talking about all things science today with somebody who brings curiosity, creativity, and deep content knowledge. Jenny.Gammil, our very own science specialist.
Jenny, we're so glad to have you here on the podcast. Can you tell our listeners about yourself and how you found your way into the world of science?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Awesome.
This is my 23rd year in education, and I started back in the early 2000s, which feels like a really long time ago. And I actually wanted to be a teacher growing up. So, when you filled out what are you going to be when you grow up? I was a teacher. And partly that was because both of my grandmothers were teachers, and my mom started as a teacher before she returned to school to get a law degree. So anyway, it's in the family, it's in the blood. So I started in teaching as a result of my mom actually working for the governor of Arkansas at the time, who was Mike Huckabee, as his education liaison. And I was finishing up college, and I, at the time, was going to go to med school, but then I switched career tracks and went into education. And she moved on from that role to working as personnel director for a school district in Central Arkansas. And so that's where I first started my teaching role in science, because my degree was in science. So I did that, and then I moved pretty quickly from the classroom to the curriculum side of things and writing science curriculum, and then coming up to Northwest Arkansas to be the first science specialist at Northwest Arkansas Co-op, when we were just starting to get science specialists in the state of Arkansas. So I did that, and then I transitioned again pretty quickly from that role to working for a large school district in a director role, centered around science education and instructional technology. And then a few years later, I found my way back to the co-op. So that's why I'm here now. But back to just in general, I have loved science I loved science for a long time as a child. Spent a lot of time with science camps, outdoors, museums, and then I went to a math and science high school. So
That's neat.
That's super awesome. Okay, so now at the co-op as a specialist, you work with lots of teachers, lots of districts. Can you kind of tell us, what does your role look like from day to day?
yeah, so let me pull out my calendar and see where I am today. And I do that many times throughout a day. Where am I today, and where am I going to be tomorrow, and where am I going to be the next day? Honestly, a lot of our work is really about supporting teachers out in the buildings. And I form those relationships during the summer when I'm doing training. And then, I tell them at the end of every training, please let me know how I can support you throughout the school year. And then I go out into their buildings and I plan with them. I model lessons. I attend PLC meetings. I look at data with administrators. I take them resources that we have available here from the co-op that they can check out. Honestly, every day looks different. I also do a lot of collaborative work with the Amazium, who provides science training up in Benton County, just because they're up there. And so I have worked really closely to get there with them to get their training in Washington County, and then also to take my skills and expertise up to Benton County and train alongside them. So we do a lot of partnership work.
Jenny, your day sounds full of fun and powerful work. What is one thing you wish you knew when you first started teaching?
Yeah, so, this is not really specific to science, but just teaching in general. And that is, I wish I knew to let the students carry the cognitive load. I was doing so much work in the classroom and was trying to tell students and help them to learn everything that I knew instead of giving them more opportunities to figure things out. And we just didn't have that language in science when I first started teaching, where it was, we were talking so much about sense making in science. And so thinking back on those first few years, it was a hot mess.
Well, we definitely learn as we go. And I think we could all, if we could redo our first 3 years, we probably would for sure, because every year brings new challenges. But I agree so much with the talking, especially in today's world. Like they're just behind phones and they need to be talking. So great advice.
So, Jenny, as a teacher, I always felt like there was never enough time to teach science. Plus, planning science for me is a little overwhelming because I like the literacy side of things. I also didn't know where to get resources from when I was in the classroom. What advice do you have for teachers that might feel this way?
I think one of the things that I often recognize in schools is that teachers just maybe forget to look at the standards. They're looking at their curriculum or whatever resources they're using to teach, but start with the standards. And the best place to do that is to go to thewonderofscience.com, look at the state view and choose Arkansas, and you'll find all your standards there, and then just a wealth of resources through that website. The second thing is in science, we're so focused now on teaching science through phenomena. And so choosing a phenomena that is engaging and interesting and relevant to students. And then, use that as a launching point for your investigations, data collection, all the things that you're doing in science.
That is great information. And we're going to add Wonder of Science to our show notes. That way, our listeners can access that and look at it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, thank you for sharing that. So, you said phenomenon is it's the part of science that's building that background. And my next question was when I'm looking at my resources, I tend to get overwhelmed with all the information on there and trying to choose the right things. Which part of a science lesson should never be skipped? And you may have spoken to that already.
In a way, I did. It is the phenomena, but more so, it is the sense making and student discourse, right? And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning with the cognitive load. The students should be talking more in a classroom, talking productively more in the classroom than the teacher. And so giving students an opportunity to share their thinking and wrestle with that thinking with their peers is how students are going to learn to problem solve and think critically in science.
That's such a good reminder to just, again, let your students have the cognitive load. And I bet the results are going to be awesome when they do that.
I really like that you said always go back to your standards because we live in a world now where curriculum is everywhere that we look in every subject area. And yes, it's great to have, but if we don't go back and look at it through the lens of standards, then we lose sight of that target that we're wanting all students to hit and master.
Okay, Jenny, earlier in this show, you talked about the co op has some resources that teachers can check out. Could you tell our listeners a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have kits available for Open SciEd, which for the middle school science curriculum only right now. We also have picture perfect kits that are used in our K-5 grades. And then we have some technology that teachers may be interested in, Ozobots, Bbots, circuit blocks, Makey-Makeys, and a few other things that our computer science specialist has that I can connect people with.
That's so amazing. And are these free or do they cost money?
No, it's absolutely free. They send me an email and share the dates that they want to use them, and I'll check and see if they're available and let them know. And many times, if I'm in the area, I can drop them off and pick them up. But if they're close by the co-op, then they typically come by and get them.
That is such an amazing thing. And we'll link Jenny's email address in our show notes too.
Perfect.
And also, how do they get you to come and support them in their building?
Yeah, again, that is just a request through email. I love to come and observe in their classroom and see what's going on and then talk with them about how I can further support them or look at their data alongside them or plan with them, whatever they need. But I love to be a support for our teachers and encourage and champion what they're doing.
And if you have not worked with Jenny, please reach out to her. She's amazing. She really has this natural ability to make science feel like it's coming to life. And I do want to remind our listeners that she's K-12, y'all, so utilize her.
She also does fantastic workshops. Do you have any coming up in the fall or spring?
So the only thing that we have in the spring is our spring science cohort, science integration cohort that I'm doing alongside the Amazium. And that information is available on the Amazium's website. So that's what we have going for the spring right now. But a lot of times, if teachers ask or principals ask, I can do professional learning for them at their building after school is out, or if they've got an early release day or something like that.
Fantastic. Oh, such a good resource. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today. You gave our listeners actionable strategies they can begin using right away. Hopefully, you guys are adding that discourse in. So important. Any subject area would be a great start. And join us next week as we welcome our math specialist from the co-op.
So, to all our listeners, whether you're new to the classroom or supporting someone who is, we hope today gave you a clear picture of the resources and support the co-op has to offer you every day.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Inspiration After the Bell. We hope you're walking away with fresh ideas, renewed energy, and a little extra inspiration to bring into your classroom tomorrow.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find links and resources from today's episode in our show notes. Thanks for all you do every day after the bell and beyond. We'll see you next time.